Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I am Crystal Hinkle. I am part of the team here at Syncro. We are so excited about this webinar. We've got an amazing partner, Bitdefender, here with us. We've got Jason and Michael. I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you what they do for Bitdefender. But yeah, I'm Crystal. I'm part of the sales team. If you've trialed Syncro, you've probably gotten an email from me. So it's great that you're all here hanging out. This webinar, is really, it's multifaceted. So not only do we want to show you how awesome Bitdefender is, we do want to highlight how amazing the integration is also. The integration really can allow you to seamlessly offer your customers the best security out there with a couple clicks of a button. So we're going to show you the magic of that. And then also, I'm going to let Jason and Michael really show off the product a little bit more, show the advantages, what you can offer your customers. Ultimately, the goal here is for you to see how to utilize these tools separately and together to offer your customers the best experience, make yourself some more money in the process. We work together. We've got a little bit of, some prizes to offer. We've got the Uber Eats gift cards. You do have to stay the whole time. So we are going to watch that, but we will get those out to you too, towards the end. But really from here, I plan on just kind of sharing my screen. We're going to go through a deck, but I would love to give Jason and Michael the opportunity to introduce themselves and let you know what they do at Bitdefender.
Mike, why don't you go first?
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Reeves. I'm a cloud security architect for Bitdefender. I joined the Bitdefender team in January of this year. Really excited to join Jason's team. He's a great team builder and just a great leader. So really excited to be a part of that family. I've been in the industry since the mid 90s. So I have a long history in the security space, and just happy to be with you today.
Thanks, Mike. And I feel the exact same way and very humbled. And I'm so glad I brought you on to start off the conversation that way. That's awesome. My name is Jason Eberhardt. I have the privilege of being the Global Vice President of Cloud MSP at Bitdefender. So this is my business. This is my family. This is what I focus on daily. And Syncro MSP is, and we've talked about it in the hype video. We talk about it anytime we can talk. We're very picky about who we partner with and really, really strong partnership. And they have the same values, the same go-to-market. They want to help people. The integration is important to them, as you heard Crystal already talk. So what we do here is we support you. We're here for you. We don't want to just sell you a product you don't need. We want to make sure that we get you what you need to be protected. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the presentation. And just so you know, you can ask questions through the whole presentation, because that's why Mr. Mike Reeves is on here. He's the smart guy. He's, if you've ever seen Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain, but he comes outside the curtain. So, but he has all the answers. So please don't hesitate. Yeah, don't hesitate. Just type your questions right in and he'll answer them for you.
Yeah, exactly. So if you see, I've got the Q&A popped out on a different screen. So if you see me like viewing that direction, I'm going to hopefully try to field the questions as they...
Mine's over here as well.
So I'm not like zoning out. I'm paying attention, but yeah, the Q&A is the best thing to use. It helps us organize those questions as they come in. And so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We've got a deck for you. We've kind of already hit these first two slides. So Jason, go ahead and take it away. And you just let me know when you're ready for me to switch the slide.
Absolutely. So I want to be very clear on this side. We're going to just jump right into it. And I wish I was in front of you guys because I feel the energy from people. I get really excited. I'm very passionate about security. I really like helping people. And at the end of the day, that's why I do this. If you'll meet me and we have a conversation, anybody on this call, I think we're up to 111. That's phenomenal, Crystal, just so you know. So I would love to meet every single one of you individually. So you can reach out to me through email, jeberhardt@bitdefender.com. You can call my cell phone, 805-202-9164. I'm here for you. I'm not the type of executive, or I don't even like saying that, right? We're a family, we work together, and I want to be there for you. So let's jump into this. Antivirus, anti-malware. Why do I need more than AV and AM? Well, let's start with, why do you need AV and AM? right? Let's start at the very base level. If you've ever seen me present, I'm sorry, but this is the analogy I use. My kids were making fun of me last night about it. So I use a house analogy. So when you're at home, would you leave your door wide open before you go to bed? Well, maybe if you're in a really, really, really safe area, but I still would recommend to close your door. That's antivirus, by closing your door. So everybody kind of does that, right? On a natural basis. They don't even think about it. When they go to bed at night, they want to make sure that their family's protected, their possessions are protected, and they're protected. Now you start to add on to that. You lock the door, that's anti-malware. You put on the security systems, that's ATS and EDR, to be able to see what's going on. But the one thing I always ask people is, would you let people walk around your house, go into your closet, look through your drawers, and when they try to steal something and run out, would you try to stop them, or would you just not let them in? I think we all know the answer to that. That's reactive versus proactive. And we are a proactive antivirus company. And if you ever hear anybody talk about good enough security, that is the worst term I've ever heard since I've been in profession. I haven't been in it as long as Mike, so he's got me by a couple years, but I did start in the 90s as well, and that is the worst term I've ever heard. And I promise I won't spend so much time on a slide that only has a couple words. So go ahead and move forward, Crystal. So what are we doing here today? So MSPs are by far more important than they've ever been. And if you're an MSP on this call, I commend you. I commend you for taking the stance to go out and make a difference in this world. I know we want to start businesses. We want to make money so we can go on vacations and buy things. But let's be real. A lot of really high-level MSPs, and I've met many of them, could go get a job at a vendor, right? Like Mike and I, right? Or they could go work at a Fortune 500 or 50 or 100 and make just as much or more money. But you've taken the initiative, and I commend you for that. So why are MSPs so important? Well, let's be real. 5 to 10 years ago, they weren't really even talking security. I have a lot of dentist friends, and if you look at the dentist industry, and I use this analogy as well, or this example as well, because it really hits home with a lot of people, and they don't think about this. Most dentist offices are a multi-million-dollar company. Like, people don't even realize that. They're $1 million or more. So when I've talked to a couple dentists, and I have a really close friend that's a dentist, and I asked him, how much of the day do you spend managing your business? He goes, what do you mean, working? I'm like, a 10-hour day. I'm like, no, your actual business. Hands in teeth, no, like working to build the business. He goes, oh, on average, I would probably say about 30 minutes a day. I go, okay, wow. So I want everybody to think about that for a second. 30 minutes a day to run a multi-million-dollar business. That's insane, right? Now, let's go even one step further. And this is the crazy part. What do you do for security? This is me asking the dentist. I think I have antivirus. That computer that's over in that desk or in that closet over there, I think has antivirus. We have a computer guy, but I haven't seen him in a while. That's scary. That's why MSPs are so important. Now start to compare that to lawyers or real estate offices or any office that has a lot of money, a lot of contacts, a lot of information. And if you're not focusing on security, you're just letting the people in to get the data. So if you look at some of these stats, I hate reading decks. I hate reading it. I would probably take a survey of everybody on this call right now, and you've probably already read it all, but let me just go through it a couple times. So 74% of MSPs have been the victim of a cyber attack. Now, here's the scary part. That's the ones that we know about. That's the ones that people have talked about. I would say it's closer to 80, 90. Mike, what are your thoughts? I just wanted to get your thoughts on the percentages.
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely higher than that. As far as intrusion attempts, whether or not they're able to victimize the MSP depends on their security posture and their ability to kind of rebuff those attacks. But definitely, and the reason why I think is pretty core when you think about MSPs is that MSPs have administrative access to hundreds, sometimes thousands of customers, and the ability, they kind of have the keys of the kingdom. So as an attacker, if I compromise an MSP, I'm not just compromising the MSP, I'm compromising all of their customers and their customers' data, because now I have administrative access. So that's why it's really critical for MSPs to really take a hard look at their security architecture and make sure that they're protecting themselves as well as their customers.
Yeah, and Mike, this stat I actually really like, the 67% of the MSPs say they do not feel confident in their ability. Here's another thing about MSPs. They're very honest. Most of them, if not all of them, are good people. They want to do the right thing. They just need the help. And that's why I love what I do. Mike knows this, and Crystal and I are getting to know each other very, very quickly. She's just amazing. So if you don't know her, definitely reach out to her. I started in youth development because I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted to help people. And as I've grown, I've started basketball programs. I've worked in different industries. I've been the technical side, not compared to Mike. I wouldn't go head to head with him ever because I like to win. So I don't go into debates that I'd lose. But the thing about MSPs is they're going to say what they need help on, and what their customers need. And that's why this space is so amazing. Mike and I have both. We've worked with each other for a long time. Even before we worked together, we've known each other for over a decade. We both worked in enterprise. We worked with big companies. They have big IT departments. They have CISOs. They have, security professionals. We want to go to where people need the help. And let's be real. If I'm an attack, let's just say I'm a bad guy, right? There's a lot of ways to call it, but let's just call it what it is, a bad guy. And if a bad guy wants to attack something, is he going to go after a Fortune 50 straight ahead where there's every tool in place and hundreds of people focused on it? No, they're going to use it. They're going to go through SMB that maybe hasn't updated their antivirus or their anti-malware, or don't have ATS, or they don't have an EDR system, or they don't have patch management. That's where they're going to attack, because it's another door into the internet. And when I talk about the house analogy, I know we kind of skipped over that pretty quickly, but I always tell people, how many entries into a house does it take to get access into the house? How many access points do you need? Just one: a garage, a window, a door. Now relate that to the cybersecurity industry. That's an IP address. If you have an IP address, if you can attack someone, let's just say the dentist down the street that has one person, that he's not there all night long, so these guys could be attacking those servers or attacking those machines. That's all they need. Now they're attacking bigger companies from the dentist office, and they're spoofing the IP addresses, and they're doing everything to mask where they're coming from. That's where it gets scary. But let me be clear. I'm not here to do a scare tactic. I'm here to share what we're talking about and trying to help you guys. So again, we talked a little bit about this, but these are some cool stats. 92% of SMBs are willing to move to a new MSP that offers the right cybersecurity. And I want to commend everybody on this call again. You're on the right call. We are the right cybersecurity. I've worked at Symantec, so is Mike. I've worked with and for many, many other security vendors. There's a reason I'm here, and there's a reason I'm doing what I'm doing. All right, Crystal, let's go ahead and make a change in slides. So we kind of talked about this on the last slide a little bit, but why? Why do they attack the MSPs, right? They're gold mines. I love that word, because they are. I've heard whales, I've heard gold mines, I've heard many different things. If you can open one door to get one present, or one door that has 1,000 doors with 1,000 presents, which door are you going to open? That's why they're attacking MSPs. And I'm telling you, 2019 was amazing for me. It was so eye-opening. And Mike and I traveled all over the world. We did presentations all over the world. We met with a lot of great people. And the cybersecurity acumen of MSPs is going through the roof in a good way. I go 5 to 10 years ago, and they're like, antivirus, we're good, and we'll barely sell it, right? So that's the exciting stuff. But access to the service providers and the keys to the kingdom, that's another great little point, right? It's like you get the one key to the MSP, and we talked about it before, the 74% of being attacked. What about that other 6 or 10 or 20% more than that you don't even know they're in there, and they're just sitting there? I know Mike's been involved. I personally was in the IT industry as a technologist early in my career, and I was involved in a very, very intense exploit. And the company knew they were being exploited. And I was hired with a group of people to come in and watch what they were doing and see where they were going and what they were trying to do. And I went into the president's office one day and I said, you know, what we're doing is amazing, right? We're watching them, we're seeing what they're doing, but what if they know we know, right? What if they know we know? So they're like, look over here, and we're attacking over here. That's the thing. This is the new way of doing business on the black market. This is the bad people. Mike, did you want to add anything on this?
No, I think the other key point,
He always
especially
says no, but then add something. Just that's going to be a thing the whole call. So just so you know. But go ahead, Mike.
Well, yeah. I think it's the lack of dedicated security personnel for me, from a technical perspective. As you get into the Fortune 500, Fortune 100, Fortune 50, they have hundreds and hundreds of dedicated security personnel. That's what they do all day, every day. When you get into the MSP space, that focus is lacking, but it's not something that you can fix with people. I think you have to fix with uh, good architecture, good products, good automation that allows your team to kind of scale in the security space. I think is just critical. So,
Yeah, and Mike, that's great. And the dedicated security personnel thing, we'll talk a little bit more about this in the deck, but it's a big issue, right? And if we go down to the MSPs and they don't have the dedicated security personnel, it's even more difficult. And that's why we're so passionate, one, about being passionate, and two, about security. And that's why we're so excited for the tools we're showing. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide, Crystal. So let's talk about a little bit of trending. All right, go ahead into the next slide. I told you I wouldn't spend so much time on that one, right? So, all right, so here's the thing about this one. I hate fear-driven spending. I hate going into an account or a partnership conversation or just talking to anybody. It seems like every time I talk to family and friends, I'm scaring them. And it's not our intention. We're not trying to scare anybody. We're trying to give you the data to make the most informed decision possible. Here's the thing. If you think that the organization's plan to increase their cybersecurity budget by 76% and you don't think that's a big deal, that's a huge deal. That wasn't even on their radar 5 to 10 years ago. I don't know exactly where, probably about 7, 8 years ago, but it started becoming a trend. That's insane. That is a good thing. And that means that you can provide them the best tools possible, right? And again, we talked about this before, the 51% do not believe they're ready. That's true. I think it's higher than that, but I commend the people that recognize that, because guess what? Recognizing you have a problem is the first step to correcting it, right? We've all heard that in a lot of different ways, right? So if you understand that you need it and we're here to provide it, let's work together with Syncro MSP and make it very, very simple and straightforward. And I think that the 29% is way high. Mike, I would love your opinion on this one about the response plans in place. That seems very, very high. I wish and I pray that that's true, but that seems pretty high. Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
one?
I would agree. I would think that would be, I think that number is probably high. I think they're probably overestimating their ability to update and their feature response plans. That's
Yeah,
not
you
my
know what?
experience in that arena.
Yeah, I think that it has grown. I'm surprised to see that number, because just so everybody's on the call knows that these stats get updated constantly. So every time we do a deck or we do a presentation, we see the new trends and the new percentages. Obviously, I knew it was that before we talked today, but I would say it's still a little lower, unfortunately, but it's definitely better than it's been. All right, Crystal, let's go to the next slide. All right, so here's the lack of resources in the world. And this is one of those things that is hard to talk about, but it's one of those reality, right? Bridging the gap. There's over 3.5 million jobs estimated in 2021 that are not going to be filled in 2021, right? Maybe we get 500,000, maybe we get 1.5 million. That's how many lack of resources or lack of people focusing on this industry there is. That's why people like Mike are so amazing, because we have them. If I didn't have Mike, I'd be in trouble, right? Because I only know so much and every person only knows so much. But if you lean on your team and you lean on the people, that's what makes it successful. So if you look at this, I think there was around, I looked it up the other day, the Stanley Cup final viewership was around 953,000 people on average that watched the Stanley Cup. Okay, so think about that for a second. Let's just say it's 1 million. There's that. If every single person that watched the Stanley Cup took a job in cybersecurity, we'd still be 2.5 million in the hole for jobs that are available. If you look at NFL stadiums, they average about 100,000 seats, give or take the stadium. I know some are more and some are less. All right, let's do 10 NFL stadiums plus every Stanley Cup viewer. Now we're at 2 million. Every single person that went to an NFL game in the 10 stadiums and the viewership is 2 million. We're still 1.5 million in the hole. That should make you think for a second. I was very encouraged because my brother-in-law works with a gentleman that his son is about to go into college. And he literally just texted me this morning that he wants to go into cybersecurity and how can I advise him and what can I help him do? That's exciting. But we take one off of that. Now we're at 3.4999, whatever, right? So that's not enough, but it's exciting. And here's the thing. 58 of the CISOs believe the problem of not having an expert cyber staff will worsen. That's true. That's just 58 CISOs that we've talked to. It's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. The thing about CISOs, and I think a lot of people know this, their life expectancy in a job is around 2 years, 4 years at the high end. Because guess who gets blamed, just like in sports, when you don't win the NBA finals or you don't win the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup finals? It's usually not the star player. It's usually the coach. So guess what, in the industry, the CISOs, they're ones that get blamed, right? So we want to help these guys because mid-market, lower mid-market, higher mid-market, even in enterprise, and we've seen in SMB have CISOs. So we want to be able to help them with that. And then work from home and work from office has really changed a lot of things, and it's increased workloads. And the thing I want to make sure everybody knows on this call, a little PSA announcement, you remember those from when we were kids, right? Make sure your security is good at home. A lot of people, and I've heard some horror stories already in 2020. I know this has been a hard year for everybody. It's tough, right? But you can't just bring your computer home and plug it in and think everything's fine. And the other thing is, a lot of people don't even bring their computer home. They just bring their home computer on and then connect to their work stuff and then through VPN. Do they have encryption? Are they doing encryption on both sides or through the motion? Are they doing patch management? Do they have a firewall? No. So guess where the attackers are going now? They're attacking you at home. Your password for your Wi-Fi needs to not be a password, or your last name, or your address. These are just things that we've seen. And I don't bring it up to be funny. I know it is a little funny, but I bring it up because it's real and I've heard it. All right, let's go ahead and move to the next one, Crystal. And this will be fast. This is just a couple instances of the cloud, right? So a lot of people in the world, and I come from enterprise, on-prem, selling on-prem, working with on-prem, IT, all those type of things. The whole world is moving to cloud, and the whole cloud word has really got exhausted, but it's basically if the data is outside of your network and you can access it is the best way to think about it. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I'll just throw it on, a public marketplace, and I'm not going to name any of the specific ones, but you guys know who they are that host the data. Do you think they're worried about your security? Yeah, they're going to do their best, but that's not their job. Their job is to host your data. So you still need security. You still need encryption. You still need patch management, ATS. You still need the things that manage the security. Mike, is there anything on this one that you wanted to add? Say no first and then give us some wisdom.
Yes, I do, Jason. This ransomware, I think, is it's been a problem. I think what's changed in the ransomware area is that it's becoming more well known, and that companies have to now document based on regulations when they are hit. And so I think we're starting to see it a little bit more in the news. But there's a lot of ransomware that goes unreported, and it's a terrible place to be. I've been with customers who've been hit with this. It has taken down their business. It has taken them offline for periods of days, sometimes weeks, and a lot of businesses can't suffer those types of outages. And so some of these are business-ending events, and so it's really scary. To deal with ransomware, I think Bitdefender's got about 30 different security controls that are brought to bear in our architecture to defend against this type of attack. But it's very serious, and it not only hits small businesses, it hits large companies, and everywhere it goes, it is very destructive. And wherever your data is, as Jason said at the beginning, if it's got an IP address, it is accessible. And so you have to be able to defend multiple attack vectors to be able to prevent this type of attack. AV, anti-malware does not help in this type of attack. It's very targeted. It uses well-known, usually trusted processes like encryption. So there has to be some additional security controls that you have to put in place to be able to defend against this type of malware.
And the last thing I'll say on this, I know we're spending a lot of time. It's just very important to Mike and I to make sure that we get this information out there. So one of the things that we're very proud of at Bitdefender is we support over 500 million endpoints across the world. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I've been challenged on it on stage, in person, on interviews. It's actually way more than 500. That's just what we're allowed to say. So 500 million endpoints, and over 38% of the cybersecurity industry uses our technology, either in the front or in the back. All right, Crystal, you want to switch slides? Yeah, so we already know about this, the year of efficiency. You know, people need efficiency. That's why the relationship with Syncro is so important. That's why the integration is so important, because if you're efficient, you could be doing what you're actually supposed to be doing. You know, working on patches, working on the business, building the business. If you have to think about efficiency, then it's taking you away from what you actually should be doing. Think about the dentist, right? If the dentist has to spend more than 30 minutes or an hour doing these type of things, he's losing money because his hands are not working on teeth. All right, Crystal, next slide. So it all comes down to the employee, and then we're going to get into some of the benefits of Bitdefender and Syncro MSP. So it's all about the people. And I joke about this a lot. Mike's heard me say this. If there was no people, there'd be no problems, right? If there was no people, there'd be no exploits. There'd no be data. There'd no be something to steal, nothing. But we do have people. And the problem is, and it's sad, but what is it? 95% of the incidents were connected to human error. I would put it closer to 100%, because if you start thinking about, if I didn't patch my system and I could have, that's human error. That's not technology error. So when they're saying 95%, they're like clicked on a link, or, you know, let the phishing happen where they could get the data or steal the passwords. But it's literally almost everything is around people. So you have to make sure that your people understand how important the security is. Make sure you have a security plan. Make sure you understand that you can't just put a USB stick in your computer and take the really proprietary data home if you don't have the right stuff at home, right? So it's important to connect with your people, make sure your people understand how important it is, and really talk to them about the house analogy. I want to make this a thing. I want to hear other people talking about it. Would you leave your door open? Would you not lock it if your kids are sleeping at home, right? Or if your family or your wife or your significant other? That's what's important. All right, next slide, Crystal. Covering the kill chain. I don't know if everybody's heard about this, but this is important to us. So we'll go ahead and move to the next slide, and we'll kind of walk through this. And Mike will definitely add some tidbits here. You know what, Mike? Why don't you start on this one, actually?
Sure. So with our Bitdefender Gravity Zone product, we have complete coverage of the kill chain, from reconnaissance, where we are defending your endpoints against network-based attacks, all the way through things like application control, device control, the ability to block traffic via our built-in firewall, the ability to encrypt data, all trying to harden your environments against attack. And then we have where attacks become weaponized in a particular environment. Let's say that they get through somehow our initial security controls. Then we are starting to monitor things like in-memory processes, actual executables, DLLs. We're looking at privilege escalation for various applications. If an attack vector is via email, we have email security built into Bitdefender that you can access. So the ability to, as Jason says, prevent malicious actors from entering the house, that's the prevention side of our security controls. And then when you talk about our detection and response, this is where our advanced threat security and our EDR technologies come into play, where we start to record all of the processes, all of the network traffic, so that you can, so that Bitdefender's prevention technologies can be brought to bear to protect your customers' environments, but also in the case of some sort of a breach, you have documented evidence. You have all of this attack chain mapped in the MITRE framework for you for easy root cause analysis. And then we give you the ability to respond to those events via our EDR console, whether that is isolating a system on a network. It could be blocking certain URLs. If you have our content control enabled, you can do manual interventions, and it could be as simple as adding a benign process to an exception list through one click in our EDR. So maybe you have some scripts that are running in the environment that may exhibit behaviors that malware exhibits. The ability to, with one click in our EDR console, add that to an exception list to really bring down your false positives is really, really great from an EDR perspective. So that kind of covers it from my perspective, Jason.
No, I love this slide, and I wanted to present it, but having you on, Mike, is just such a benefit to everybody on this call. So I wanted you to go through it.
Sure.
But this is it, guys. This is the deal. If any slide on this entire presentation and you just want to look at technology and security, this is it. It has been explained how to prevent. And guess what? You cannot prevent 100%. And what I tell people, again, I don't try to scare them, but if it's man-made, it could be man-broken. And technology is man-made, right? So we're constantly trying to stop them from coming in. And our technology is at the top, 1 or 2 every single year. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But really, at the end of the day, if you have really good security, if you have a really good lock on your door, somebody could still break in, but it's a little harder. So if you walk down the street and you're like, that door's wide open and that door's locked with the door closed, I'm going to go try to get into the one with the door open, right? That's just as simple as it is. So go ahead and move to the next slide, Crystal. One more. This is how we simplify the whole thing. This is it in a nutshell. People are visual. I'm visual. This is one of my other favorite slides. This explains who we are and what we do for you. So if you look in the middle where it's black, the whole black circle there, that's our base gravity zone core. That's it. That's just the core. You buy our AV, our gravity zone is what we call it here at Bitdefender. You get all of those tools. Now start thinking about that compared to our, and I don't like to call competitors, they're collaborators. They push us to be better on a daily basis. If we didn't have collaborators out there, we wouldn't be better. And we're constantly pushing ourselves every day. And at Bitdefender, I've never been more blown away by how much they're constantly pushing to be better. Mike and I have worked together at other companies, and I think we talked about it earlier. That wasn't the case. Sell what we have, and we'll talk about other stuff later. Bitdefender doesn't do that. If there's something you find, you let us know. So think about it. So that's, network attack. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but exploit. All those things are the base. Now, here's the crazy, amazing part that when I first came to Bitdefender, I evaluate the security, I evaluate the technology, I evaluate the people, I look at the market share, I ask questions to people I know, and I still didn't get to this point. So I was sitting at my first SKO, and they were presenting this to me. And I literally stopped the presentation in front of the entire company, and I said, hold on a second. What? And Mike knows exactly where I'm going with this. You can add patch, you can add ATS encryption with just a checkbox and no install, no added install, no reinstall and add something else. No, it's that simple. If you have a customer or an MSP or anybody that wants to be able to, we have Gravity Zone, we evaluate it. We really want to look at ATS and EDR, which I highly recommend. That's the 1-2 punch. But if you want to add ATS, it's a checkbox. You go into your Gravity Zone, you click it, now you have it. It's really that simple and that straightforward. And I still can't get over how amazing that is at Bitdefender. And if you look at all the things that we have here, right, we look at the security posture from the beginning to the end, and Mike talked about it a little bit in the kill chain process, is literally we thought of every kill chain part of the whole stream. How do we help prevent that? Okay, how do we help stop that? Okay, how do we make sure we know what happened so it doesn't happen again? Mike, is there anything you wanted to discuss on this one?
Yeah, a couple of areas. One is our architecture is a single management console that we call Control Center, single agent. So as Jason said, that it is enabled on the client in the module, and then you enable it in a policy. And it's that simple to turn on additional security controls. And we talked about earlier, from scaling your business, the ability to automate and to just reach further than you might be able to reach on your own, I think is very, very key, in a very simple, easy to navigate management UI. But a couple of areas, I look at security as kind of a good, better, best scenario. I think good is probably the entire inner circle. That's our core module. It does more than most of our competitors. And it's out of the
Collaborators. But go ahead, Mike.
just deploy it. And the area that I'm really excited about, that maybe a lot of the MSPs on this call are not very familiar with, at least from my perspective when I get on the phone with them, is the area on kind of the 4 o'clock area called risk analytics. Risk analytics, you turn it on via policy. It's the bottom area. It's called risk management. And what you do is you check that box. It's part of the core product, so there's no additional cost. And what it does, based on your schedule that you set in that policy, it will go out and scan your Windows environments, and then you'll get a dashboard that's called the risk management dashboard over on the left-hand side of Gravity Zone. And in there, we literally visualize for you your attack surface in your customers' environments. We look at the operating system misconfigurations. We look at network misconfigurations. We're looking at application vulnerability. So if you've ever asked the question, or if you've ever taken the time to look at what applications your customers are using, and then trying to map which vulnerabilities are critical, we do that for you. So in a matter of seconds, you will see the applications that are vulnerable in your customers' environments. You will see their corresponding CVE. So if you want documentation as far as why you are updating those particular applications or why it's important to do that, we link you to the corresponding CVE, and then you have the ability to patch, which is just amazing. So, and where we're going now, where Bitdefender is investing in this technology for you as an MSP, is we are starting to analyze human risk behaviors in your customers' environments. So these are things like, are your customers using the same password on 80 different websites? So if that password is compromised, now those with malicious intent now have access to not only that system, but all of the other websites that user has access to, because they're using the same password. We will point that out for you, and we're expanding even more. I can't share our next release that's coming out in a few short weeks here, but we are really diving into the deep end in human risk analytics. So not only do we show you the risk from an operating system, network, application perspective, but we're now starting to expose human risks, and we're the weakest link in the attack chain, and we're going to start to visualize that for you. So if you have not implemented this in your security practice, highly recommend. One takeaway from today's call is to go into Gravity Zone, check that box in the policy, and see what comes out. And you'll be able to very, very quickly become the security expert in the attack visualization for your customers' environment. So I wanted to highlight that area. The other area, from a good, better, best, I think better, you want to add our advanced threat security and EDR. Ransomware, this is ransomware protection. It's kind of I think the minimum type security nowadays. If I'd be honest, you've got to have advanced threat security and EDR incorporated into your security architecture. And the other one is email. make sure you have a good email, anti-spam, anti-malware, and also ask your email vendor, do they cover business email compromise? If they don't, that is where a huge risk is today, is where emails from executives, whether that's the owner of the business or someone that has authority over the financial transaction of a company, an email is sent to them that has been spoofed. It looks exactly like their email. They email somebody on their staff to wire transfer money to an account. It's always in a rush. And if you don't have that type of business email compromise protection in your security, you will be caught with this. This is running rampant right now, especially with small business, where the owner of the company emails his administrative assistant to wire transfer money into an account, and he or she does it because they've been instructed to do it, and now the business has lost money. You can prevent that. It's very easily preventable. Just make sure your email security has that type of prevention, like the Bitdefender security product there. So those are the areas that I wanted to highlight. Again, all of these technologies, single agent, single management console, integrates with Syncro very, very elegantly, that we'll show you here. And the entire platform can be integrated with via various platforms like Syncro, because it's completely driven by APIs. So that's all I have.
All right. No, that's great, Mike. And go ahead and switch to the next slide. And I didn't notice, but there's many questions on the Q&A. And we will go through each one of those to make sure we have enough time. I understand, sometimes it's a sales pitch, and I apologize for that, but we kind of have to do that because many people don't know everything that we want to talk about. But I did see one right here about the SOC offering. So stay tuned. Go ahead and slide one more slide. So this is where we're going to get into the meat of it, guys. So apologize, we have to do some of that stuff, but we're gonna have to go through that. So we'll go through this one quickly. We do offer services. We found that in the industry for MSPs, that sometimes they just don't have the time to switch out their AV, or they're having issues deploying the AV. We can help you with all of that, right? We can help you with all of the things that you need help with, but we can also just enable you to do it yourself, right? So I'm not gonna spend too much time. Let's move on. I wanna answer some of these questions. So I wanna get through some of this stuff. Here's the SOC. So we do have a SOC. It's in San Antonio, Texas. We have our EDR capability that you can add on with the checkbox, right? So detection and response, but also MDR, managed detection and response. So that is something we just enabled. We just came out to market on. Mike, do you want to kind of go through that just like at a high level, maybe 60 seconds, 120 seconds? And I'm going to look to see if there's questions that are coming in while you're talking about it.
Yeah, no problem. This is a 24/7 security operations center. It's staffed with 3-letter agency personnel that we recruited. We offer 2 different levels of managed detection and response. We offer what's called expert advice. And the easy way to think about this is that you turn on a feed in your customer environments to Bitdefender. So we integrate natively out of the box with our Bitdefender technology. That brings a data feed into our SOC. And we have analysts that go through that data feed. We have algorithms. It's not all just humans, but it's machine learning, AI engines. We prioritize those particular events. And then we offer you, from a security analyst perspective, expert advice about how you should respond to a given incident and whether or not you should respond to a given incident. And that's what we call expert advice. That is where we are acting as your agent to give you prioritize directives as far as what you should do as the MSP. The second level of our MDR is where you want to have Bitdefender help you defend your customers' environment. So that is where Bitdefender employees um, become your direct agents to respond to various attacks. And that's what we call expert response. So expert advice is where we are helping you to respond. Expert response is where you kind of outsource that response to us, and we go through templates about how you want us to respond in a given scenario. Both of those are offered through the MSP channel, and those are the two different levels that we offer.
Great. I'm trying to feverishly answer some of these questions, but Crystal's taken so many of them live, so I'm gonna do what I can, and then we'll bring them up at the end, because that's really what it comes down to. We want to answer your guys' questions, and again, for the whole team here, we do have to go through some of this stuff because there's over 120 people on the call. So I understand some of you guys are really high level security professionals, which is amazing, but we have to touch on some of this stuff. So go ahead and move to the next slide, Crystal. So this one I'll go fast through because this is salesy and this is a sales pitch part, right? We're usually 1 or 2 every year. I know how it is. I used to be a technologist. I know exactly where you guys are coming from, right? So but we have to get some of this stuff out of the way. We are normally 1 or 2, normally 1, right? So that's something you could look into. Independent testing, meaning we don't have to pay for it, nothing. They just do it, they test it, and they put the information out. All right, go ahead, Crystal. Mike, why don't you take the MITRE attack while I answer some of these questions?
Yeah, one of the areas that we're really excited about, Forrester called Bitdefender, and I think this is just perfect. We're the EDR vendor that nobody's heard about, but we do the best job. So from when MITRE decided to test out various security products, and look at real world kind of attacks, whether it be ransomware or privilege escalation or whatever, they decided to test all these vendors, specifically focused on EDR. And what they found is that in Bitdefender, we were the vendor that covered the entire attack chain out of the box. And so there were other vendors that maybe did better than us in a specific area, whether that be the initial breach or whether persistence or whatever the case may be. But where Bitdefender shines is the entire attack chain being able to have technologies and security controls that address each of those areas of the attack chain. And stay tuned. I mean, you're going to hear a little bit more about this over the next month or so when we release the new version of Gravity Zone this quarter. But we've taken this to yet another level. So the areas regarding telemetry, or whether it's analysis, or whether it's targeted attacks, or whether it's trying to exfiltrate data, Bitdefender has security controls in every single one of those areas. And so I think MITRE was very, very, just very, very highlighted some great areas that I think Bitdefender shines in this area of attack chain and attack chain visualization, and also just dealing with the kill chain. So.
Perfect. I'm hoping I'm answering a lot of these good questions. So go ahead and move to the next one, Crystal. Normally I present, but questions are what's most important, right? We have a lot of great partnerships. A lot of people depend on us. We're involved in a lot of these different things. So that's kind of just what that slide is. So it's pretty, it's cool. Let's move on to the next slide. And again, we talked about this. The employees are the most important thing. That is where the biggest exploit comes from, right? So you have to make the risk intelligence around your technical components, around the human element, and you put the cloud in there, and that's really what the complete posture is. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. I just want to make sure we answer these questions. Crystal, do we have until 11, or are we, what time is this over at?
Yeah, technically 11, but I mean,
I'll go as long as you need. What we can do is, we're almost done here, guys, for everybody listening. But what we'll do is Mike and I will stay on even past it, but we'll stop to do the awards. So if you have to leave, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through every single one of the questions on here, and we're going to get you an answer. before this is over. So that's what the process is going to be. And I really appreciate the bluntness from some of you guys. You know, some people get offended by that. I do not. This is how we get better, right? So in Employees We Truck, here's kind of a dashboard. And Mike, what I'm hearing from a lot of it is a lot of these guys already use Bitdefender. So a lot of this stuff they've already seen. They're really excited about the Syncro MSP and us. A lot of them have been in security a long time. So a lot of the stuff we talked about before, but again, there's a lot of people on here, right? So here's a quick snapshot of the dashboard. A lot of you guys have seen that. What we can do is we can do one-on-ones with you, and that's a lot of the answers I'm giving. You know, a lot of people are asking for technical one-on-one. How does it help with their company? What can we get something that's not a 1,000-page document on how to configure our system, those type of things. So what I told them is we can get one-on-one sessions with them. So there's what that is. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. And I think this is the last slide, and we'll go to question and answer. So human risk. This is one of the coolest things that we have. It's one of those things that you don't think about, but really what we've talked about, right? And it's all about the employee. So you have to make sure you see where the highest risk is and be able to, do actionable solutions to those risks. If you don't know what they are, you don't know where you should be spending your time. You could be spending your time on something that's about a 1% versus a 90%, right? So this is what helps you with that. All right, let's go ahead and move to the next one. All right, here where we're at. So Crystal, I was going to say that we could just go from the very top, and I'm just going to go down the list and I'll read them. And if it's for you, you can take over. If it's for Mike or myself. And then when we hit the 11 o'clock, we'll stop wherever we're at. We'll give the awards. And if they want to leave, they can, but we'll continue with the question and answer. Does that sound okay to you?
Yeah, what I was thinking is that there were several questions just talking about the integration. So if
why don't you just take that? Yeah, go ahead.
you don't mind, I think I'll kick this off, and I'm just going to share my screen. So one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to launch this poll too, because I'm really curious as to, because we do have a lot of folks in here, and I'd love to know if you're using Syncro, if you're only using Syncro, if you're only using Bitdefender, or you're using them together. So just really curious about that. But what I want to show here, a lot of the questions were like, well, I already use Bitdefender, but it's not integrated with Syncro. Like, what's the advantage? Why do I want to know how this works together? And so first, what I want to do is really kind of just show you how easy it is to set up. So you can just head right over to our App Center here. What I love about this is that with our Bitdefender integration, we just gave you the ability to trial it. So there's no commitment. If you just want to check out all of this awesome sauce that they've been talking about this whole time, just trial it, just test it out, throw it on a few endpoints. You get 30 days. So I would recommend that you can do that straight from our app card. So whether you're trialing Syncro or you're paying for Syncro, you can trial Bitdefender. So this is a huge advantage to just make sure that you're getting, you're choosing the right product, which we feel really strongly that Bitdefender is that product. In addition to that, we have this awesome knowledge base article. And so there's been a couple of questions on, hey, when we looked at that picture that shows all of the things that are just included in Gravity Zone, and then there's the add-ons on that outer circle, we define all of those things inside of our knowledge base article, which is really helpful. Now, to get a little bit more onto that, how do I implement this? So I've set up the integration. I love Bitdefender. Again, why the integration? Why is this important to me? So within Syncro, and again, there's so many people in here not knowing like where you're at in your journey. I'm just going to kind of go super high level. But you'll see in Syncro, we have policies. And so if I just go into any of these policies here, you'll see that we have the option to enable Bitdefender. So when you enable Bitdefender, I have another antivirus right here. So like if you enable Bitdefender, the amazing thing is that you have some options and some control right within the Syncro policy. So whenever you go to install Syncro, it will automatically trigger that install of Bitdefender. It is going to create that company in Gravity Zone with those endpoints associated with that company. It's seamless, it's organized, it's literally like enable it on a policy level, install Syncro. So not only is Bitdefender a single agent, so is Syncro. So it's super light, easy to do, easy to implement, and then easy to manage. So like I mentioned, the flow is we're going to install Bitdefender, then those endpoints are going to show up in your Gravity Zone portal. in addition to just having a super easy install within Syncro itself, there's a few other things that's pretty awesome. So again, depending on where you're at in your journey with Syncro, I'm just going to hop over here and just show automated remediation. And one thing that Michael did mention is that this is API, a really intense API integration, which allows us to continue to build on the integration. So right now we have certain, there's a few alerts that are like pulling into Syncro that you can actually set up an automation about. So I just went into an existing because I just wanted to show you, you can set your trigger category, and it could be that Bitdefender found malware or whatever, found a threat. Then you could have it automatically create a ticket for you, notify the customer, whatever it might be. You can set up some automations. In addition to that, I like to just highlight, I know I only have a couple more minutes, but I want to just make sure I also highlight a few other valuable points of the integration itself. You can go in here and you could create a saved asset search for like every computer that has Bitdefender, for example. You can use this saved asset search then to automatically bill your customer per endpoint for Bitdefender. So if in our reoccurring billing, if you added an endpoint to a policy that had Bitdefender installed on it, it will automatically update your reoccurring invoice to that added line item, like that added and updated endpoint count. So there is just a lot of power within this integration. And what I'm excited about is that it just will continue to grow, because we have requests all the time. Hey, I want to surface this alert from this thing. I want EDR. If there's a threat or whatever it is, I want that surfaced in Syncro, and we're working on that. So our partnership does mean a lot to us, and we are in constant communication, whether it's us or with our dev manager and, our COO. I know Ian talks to you guys a lot too. So we're really dedicated and committed to making this integration as seamless as even better than it already is. So that's always exciting to know that the development hasn't stopped. So hopefully that helps clear things up. And I think just the deployment and the integration that I just showed hopefully answers some of the questions of, hey, I'm getting Bitdefender through this, that, or the other. Why choose Syncro to integrate? So hopefully that helped answer some of those questions. And thank you also, whoever, everyone that participated in that poll, because that's really kind of cool and helpful for us as well. I can stop sharing now for a second, because I think the exciting thing about these awards, and then I want to get back to the Q&A and make sure that we answer all of your guys' questions. But the exciting thing is that everyone that's still here gets an Uber Eats gift card. So we're going to email that to you. It's $15. We're going to get that over to you so you can enjoy some lunch. I know it's about 11 a.m. my time. I'm starting to get hungry.
Same.
So hopefully I stayed the whole time. So I better be included in this Uber Eats gift card. So I think at this point, yeah, we can just dive into this Q&A. I haven't looked over there since I started.
I've been feverishly trying to go through it, and be honest, some of them I can't answer, but I love the bluntness from your partners. I just love it. I know some people are like, wow, like that's so like harsh. That's how we get better, right? I've heard a lot of things about Mike, just so you know, about support. So I gave them my email and my cell phone. If you have an issue with support, call me directly. I don't care. That's how much we've changed the support. And I won't go too long into, I know I can be long-winded. So that is something that we're taking very seriously. So Mike, I think this one's for you. I'm going to ask it out loud. We're probably already planning on covering. Okay, but can you talk about how Bitdefender compares to the Windows 10 included Windows Defender? Oh, that good enough security comment. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I would say Windows Defender would be in the, I don't want to say it's good, it's okay security. It's, Microsoft has a vested interest, I would say, as a corporation, and they've made significant strides over the past probably 5 or so years to get really sharp on security.
At the front door.
They've made huge strides. Where they're lacking, and I think where Bitdefender kind of shines in a Windows Defender kind of environment, is that modern day malware is not just viruses anymore. It's not just your traditional malware. It is targeted attacks through people or through networks or through the web or through email that Windows Defender is designed for the architecture where it was just viruses and a little bit of malware type targets, where nowadays through users and their social media accounts and things like that, an attacker can really learn a lot about the people in a company. They might be able to get access to their credentials and then start to target that company. Well, that type of defense requires a lot more than just AV and anti-malware. You have to think about security holistically, and that's where I think Bitdefender compares to the Windows Defender. Is that Windows Defender is really geared towards one, maybe two attack vectors, where Bitdefender is designed for multiple different attack vectors, and it just provides a better defense out of the box. Our core product has things that Windows Defender just does not have. That's kind of my long-winded short answer, but we can go into detail if you want details. But I think architecturally, that's the biggest difference is, are you prepared for the other attack vectors that are just not defensed in a Windows Defender type environment?
Thanks, Mike. I would have just said good enough security is not good enough security. So I'm so glad you're on the call. Can Bitdefender default set this? I think this is going to be for either Crystal or Mike.
Yeah.
Can the default setup file send by Syncro be changed to a setup file without the uninstall existing AV, because the uninstall feature is not working? So can we uninstall from Syncro? Because I know we can uninstall from Gravity Zone. So Crystal, do you know that? Do you know that? Or Mike, do you know that?
Yeah, if the ability to uninstall, because there is a checkbox literally to install and uninstall. So if I think the major thing is if that's not working, we want to make sure that that's working, because it should. And I have not. So if it's not working, let's get the technical support and developers involved, because yeah, that should just happen. So I think that's what I would say.
Yeah. So Kai, if that answer doesn't answer your question, please email me, Eberhardt@bitdefender.com. I put it on this sheet a lot. So if you have any issues there, let me know and we'll make sure we get you resolved.
I would also,
Mike, go ahead.
Real quick about the uninstall. One of the issues that I've seen is that there are certain AV products that don't uninstall cleanly. And so the ability to uninstall a particular package, we're using, at least the Bitdefender technology is using the native uninstaller for that product. And if that native uninstaller cannot uninstall the product, then you may be running into issues. The other issue that I've seen is in the area of password protection. Make sure you turn that off before you initiate that uninstall process. So.
Thank you, Mike. Man, I'm so glad you're on here. Mike has a question from Mike. Can you make a printable report from the risk management dashboard?
You can export the results, and what we're doing is we're starting to look at risk from an executive perspective as well. So we're introducing the concept of things like executive dashboards and stuff that you're going to see coming out in the product. So probably the best report, depending on what you want, is either from risk management. That'll help you with the visibility of the attack surface. But the second area is in Bitdefender, what I call the security audit report is a really good kind of high level with associated detail so that you can be very specific into various incidents in your conversations with your customers. So.
Thanks, Mike. Looking at risk analytics, Charles has a question. Is that turned on under policies, risk management?
Yes. So it's down at the below. It's down.
I was going to say, you're not going to say yes. I know you too well. Go ahead.
Yes, it's way down on the list. I wish they'd move it up, but it's all the way down. You got to scroll all the way down. Check the box, and then it's going to ask you for how often you want to run the scan. I would run it at first, probably daily. And then as you start to correct different misconfigurations and things like that, then you could probably move it to more weekly. But yeah.
All right. So Dean has a question, and I'm going to read. It's 2 sentences. Okay. So let's just follow along. I have a client who has recently rolled out Citrix full VDI for 500 plus staff just in time for work from home. Syncro lists security for virtual environments desktop at 0.01 per endpoint. Is this correct, or how does this work? Yeah, I don't know how to answer that one either. So Dean, can you, I'll put my email in the chat. Just email me and I'll get Mike involved, and we'll make sure that we can clarify your question to make sure that we get you the right answer. Luke wants to know, does Bitdefender and or Syncro offer or integrate with a dark web monitoring service?
Not out of the box, so not our product, but our MDR solution brings in the dark web kind of scanning, those types of technologies.
Perfect.
So our MDR solution is bringing that.
Go ahead, Crystal.
Yeah, and just, I mean, I think that that's probably the best solution, is just to use that add-on. I mean, Syncro itself, I mean, I think the only other thing that we integrate, we do have an integration essentially via scripting deployment for Huntress. Just
That's perfect. Yeah, I like Huntress. So Mike, this one I was going to answer, but I'm going to let you answer, and then I'll add color too. Should each client only have Bitdefender, or do they also need AV and anti-malware?
Yeah, so the answer to that is no. You don't need another AV anti-malware product. The idea of security in depth has to do with the number of security controls that you can bring to bear to defend your customers' environments. So having 2 AVs, number one, they'll be stepping on each other if they're doing their job well. Both of them load, hopefully, into kernel-based processing. And so you don't really want to have multiple AV anti-malware kind of engines running at the kernel level. So that will pose a ton of different problems in your customer's environment. So I would definitely choose one. Hopefully you'll definitely choose the best, which is Bitdefender. Jason, you wanted to add color to that?
Nope, that's what I was going to say. I literally wanted to see how you were going to answer it, and that's how I would have done that. So that's funny. Matt wants to know, how will our current assets in Gravity Zone match up with the assets in Syncro if we brought them? Oh, I think we brought them all over. Yeah. And trust me, Matt, I type way worse, so don't even think twice about that. So Mike, what do you think about that?
So I would say why don't we let Crystal answer that? I know on the Bitdefender side how we integrate via APIs, but how it looks on the Syncro side, I'm not as sure about.
Yeah, so and this is kind of specifically to bring your own Bitdefender. So you've already got your Bitdefender account, you just want to bring it over to Syncro, and essentially what that does is allows you to receive your bills from one place, where Syncro will now bill you for Bitdefender. And so with the bring your own, it doesn't necessarily link up the existing at this point. Not to say that that won't change, but it is more on just the billing integration side. And then anything moving forward, you get new clients, then you launch through Syncro, and those ones would be linked. But bringing over is more of just centralizing your billing.
Gotcha. So it's a one-way kind of sync. So you have to initiate the creation of the company, and then it gets imported into Bitdefender, where the reverse is not yet true. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, we have an anonymous, and let's go till 11:15, so 4 more minutes, and then any question we don't have, I'll just ask that we get this email out, and we can just answer you guys' question individually. So I know I've been typing a lot, but JEBERHARDT@bitdefender.com. Send me an email. I don't care if I get 100 emails in the next 10 minutes. If you need help from us, we're here for you. But I did want to go over this one. So Anonymous was calling us on the sales pitch, which I agree with, right? I totally agree with. I was a technologist, but he has or they have a really good question. Are ATC and ATS the same thing?
No. So ATC is part of our core offering. It was kind of, I would say, Bitdefender's first step into more advanced threats. The advanced threat security actually has two different components to it. The first one is our HyperDetect engine, which is what I call, I've been in the industry a long time, and I remember machine learning and AI coming out. Think of ATS, or our advanced threat security, as machine learning 2.0. It literally gives you the ability to tune the Bitdefender machine learning and AI engine for a specific customer policy, which is that's just phenomenal. So it deals with things like ransomware, crimeware, all sorts of different attack vectors. And then you determine how permissive or how aggressive you want to be. So that's the first component of ATS. The second component, it adds our sandbox technology where you can remotely detonate objects, whether they be applications, documents, archives, even emails, in the Bitdefender isolated environment away from your customer's environment, so that you can determine, or actually Bitdefender can determine, the risk associated with that particular object. And you can, by policy, determine whether your end user has access to the object before the detonation, or whether they don't. And that's by policy. Both of those technologies are included with advanced threat security. Really, really important nowadays for zero-day type attack vectors. So
Thank you, Mike. Here's the most, Crystal, this is the most important question of the whole thing. Can you send a Canadian Uber Eats gift card versus just American? So we'll talk about that offline. I was just giving you a hard time, but we'll see if we can make that happen for you, Valentino. Carl, let me know when the fully managed US-based SOC pricing for small and MSP becomes available. Absolutely, we will. We're working on that right now as we speak. So if you want to get a live demo, or you want to have a conversation around the capabilities and really just dig in on that, we can have a whole conversation with all of Syncro MSP's partners with Crystal and just focus on the SOC if that's something that's valuable to the team. So send an email to Crystal, let her know if that's something that you would like to do, and we're happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna put my email in the chat because I think you guys can see chat.
Oh, so you're getting brave like me. All right.
Good.
Putting it out there.
Throwing it out there. So yes, I think that, I think this just shows that we're not going to shy away from hard questions. If there's questions that we don't know, we'll tell you that. And if we run out of time, like we just did, we will work hard to get the answers, because we do value the fact that you spent a little over an hour of your time. Your time is super valuable. So thank you so much for hanging out. I mean, again, we don't mind the tough questions. I would rather get a ton of tough questions and have you here engaged in this conversation. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. I thank you, Jason. Thank you, Michael. I think this was phenomenal. So check your email for that Uber Eats, and we will we'll verify the Canadian Uber Eats too, because I don't know.
priority one.
Yes, exactly. Heck yeah. We're getting closer
up there in Canada. That's awesome.
It is awesome. All right, guys, but please let us know on the questions. If you didn't get your question answered, we should be able to pull it from here, but you guys know how technology works. So you can email Crystal, email me. I'll make sure Mike gets involved, and we'll make sure we get you your answers, because that's the most important part.
Yes, exactly. Please do. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was awesome. I think we're actually going to be doing another webinar in a few weeks, actually, in November. So hopefully come hang out with us again. So thank you so much. Appreciate everyone's time.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.